The night was silent in the forgotten corner of the galaxy. The old alien outpost floated like a ghost in the darkness of space. Broken walls hanging loose, lights long dead. Many ships had passed this place before, but none dared to stop. People whispered about curses, about shadows moving inside. Most travelers avoided it. But one human did not. Ethan, a lone explorer, stepped out of his small ship. His boots touched the metal floor with a hollow sound. He carried only a flashlight and a simple blaster at his side. The air smelled of dust and rust, even through the thin mask he wore. It was a place left behind, a place forgotten. Yet, as he walked deeper, he felt he was not alone. The silence broke. A sound soft, almost too soft to be re-echoed through the empty halls. It was not a machine. It was not the hum of power. It was a voice. "Help me." Ethan froze. His light shook slightly in his hand. The voice was weak, broken, but it carried a strange energy, as if it traveled not only through the air, but also through his mind. "Help me." The voice came again. Every instinct told him to leave, to run back to his ship and fly away. But his heart pulled him forward. Humans had always answered the cries of the weak, no matter the risk. He moved slowly, every step louder than he wanted it to be. The corridor was long, filled with strange marks on the walls. They looked like claws, or maybe writing in a language he did not understand. His flashlight revealed broken doors, smashed panels, and the remains of machines he could not name. And then he saw it. A cage-dotted stood in the middle of a ruined chamber, tall and heavy, made of dark metal that looked older than the stars. Chains thick as his arm wrapped around the bars. Inside, sitting on the cold floor, was a figure. A girl, but not human. Her skin was pale silver, glowing faintly in the dark. Her eyes shone like two small stars, bright and filled with sorrow. Strange cuffs bound her wrists, glowing with red symbols. Her hair, long and white, spilled across the floor like threads of light. When she looked up at him, Ethan felt his breath stop. "You came," she whispered. Her voice was soft, but it carried through the room like a song of despair. Her chains rattled as she moved closer to the bars. "Please, help me." Ethan gripped his blaster tightly, though he did not point it at her. His mind was full of questions. Who was she? Why was she here? Why did she call to him? He stepped closer. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice careful. "I am Lyra," she answered, her eyes never leaving his. "I am the last of my kind. They locked me here, to die." Her words echoed in the chamber, heavy with sorrow. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. "Who locked you here?" he asked. "The ones who feared me," she said softly. "The ones who destroyed my world. Please, only you can free me." Her fingers reached through the bars, trembling. For a moment, Ethan wanted to step back. Something about her felt dangerous. The air around the cage was heavy, almost alive. He saw symbols burned into the floor, circles and lines that glowed faintly when his light touched them. It was not just a cage. It was a prison, and prisons were built for those too dangerous to be free. Ethan's heart pounded. Should he help her, or was she a trap waiting to be unleashed? Lyra's voice broke his thoughts. "You must decide quickly," she whispered. "Every moment you wait, they hear us." Ethan's eyes widened. "They?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "The Guardians. They will come if you stay too long." The room grew colder. The silence deepened. Ethan suddenly felt that the shadows around him were watching, waiting. He looked at Lyra again. Her eyes were full of pain, but also of hope. She was chained, helpless, and desperate. Ethan knew one thing for sure. He was the only human who had ever answered her cry. He took a step closer to the cage. And in that moment, the outpost shook. The floor trembled under his boots, dust falling from the broken ceiling. A deep sound, like metal grinding against metal, echoed through the halls. Something had awakened. Lyra's chains rattled louder as she pulled at them, her voice urgent now. "They are coming," she cried. "If you leave me here, you will never escape either." Ethan raised his flashlight, the beam cutting through the dark. The corridor behind him stretched like an endless throat. The sound of heavy steps began to grow, slow and steady. Boom, boom, boom. Boom. The Guardians. He turned back to Lyra. She stared at him with those glowing eyes, her hand still reaching out. "Only you can help me," she whispered again. Ethan's hand hovered over his blaster, his mind torn between fear and courage. One choice could save him. The other could doom him. But the one thing he could not escape was the voice of the girl in the cage. Ethan's breath came slow and heavy as the outpost trembled around him. The sound of approaching steps grew louder. A dust fell from the broken ceiling, floating like gray snow. His hand tightened around the blaster, but his eyes stayed fixed on the chained girl. Lyra pressed her pale fingers against the bars, her glowing eyes never blinking. "You must listen to me," she whispered. Her voice was urgent now, no longer soft and sorrowful. "If you open this cage, your life will change forever. You will never be safe again." Ethan's chest tightened. He had faced dangers before, raiders, storms, even strange beasts on forgotten planets, but never something like this. Never a warning that felt so heavy, as if the universe itself was trying to hold him back. "Why?" he asked, his voice low but sharp. "Because they will come for you too," she said. Her chains rattled as she moved closer to the bars. "The ones who built this prison. They are still out there. They hear when I speak. They know when someone listens. By standing here, you have already been marked." Her words cut through the air like blades. Ethan's heart pounded louder than the footsteps in the corridor. He wanted to believe it was fear talking, a trick to make him open the cage, but something in her eyes told him otherwise. "Then why call to me at all?" he asked. Lyra lowered her head, her silver hair falling across her face. "Because I cannot stay here any longer. My body grows weak. My chains drain me. I will die here if no one helps me. And you are the only one who answered. Many heard me before, but they turned away. They feared what you now fear." Ethan swallowed hard. The Guardian's steps echoed closer, the sound now mixed with a metallic growl, deep and unnatural. He turned his light toward the corridor. The shadows shifted. For a second, he thought he saw glowing eyes in the distance. Then they were gone. "Why are you in this cage?" he demanded. Lyra lifted her head again, her eyes burning bright. "Because they fear what I carry inside me. Power, knowledge, a gift I was born with. To them, I am not a girl. I am a weapon. They destroyed my world, then locked me away so I would never rise against them. That is why I beg for your help, human. But you must know, freeing me will not end this. It will begin it." Her words struck him like thunder. T's pulse raced. Every part of him screamed to run back to his ship, to leave her and this cursed place behind. But another part, the part that had carried him across the stars, the part that made him human, told him he could not. He looked at her again. Her body trembled with weakness, yet her spirit glowed strong. She was both fragile and powerful at the same time. And she was right, he had already gone too far to turn back. The floor shook again, harder this time. From the darkness, a long shadow crawled across the wall. The Guardians were almost here. Ethan stepped closer to the cage, his voice sharp. "If I free you, how do I know you won't turn against me?" Lyra's eyes softened, sadness washing over her face. "Because you are the only one who has shown me mercy. I have cried out for years, centuries maybe. No one answered but you. If I wished you harm, I would not need to beg. I would wait for them to destroy you. But I do not want that." Her voice cracked. For the first time, Ethan heard the truth behind her words: loneliness. Endless, crushing loneliness. Boom, the sound of a giant metal step made the walls shake. Boom, another one. The air grew colder. Ethan's light flickered, then steadied again. His time was running out. Lyra's chains glowed faintly now, red symbols, pulsing like a heartbeat. She pulled at them, her voice rising. "You must choose. If you leave me, they will still chase you. If you free me, they will chase us both. But at least together, we might survive." Ethan's mind spun. The choice was clear, yet impossible. Leave, and the Guardians may follow him forever. Stay, and he might be destroyed alongside her. But he remembered something his father once told him, long before he ever left Earth. Sometimes the right choice is the dangerous one. Safety does not make heroes. Courage does. Ethan's jaw tightened. He raised his blaster, aiming at the lock on the cage. Lyra's eyes widened. Her chains rattled with sudden hope, and then a roar thundered through the hall. The first Guardian stepped into the light. It was massive, twice the height of a man, its body forged from dark steel, its face a mask of burning eyes. Its arms were blades, its chest glowing with the same red symbols as Lyra's chains. It saw Ethan, and it charged. Lyra screamed, "Free me, or you will die." Ethan pulled the trigger. The blaster bolt struck the lock. Sparks exploded. The metal screamed. The cage shuddered. The Guardian's steps thundered closer. Shaking the ground like a storm, Ethan fired again, his heart racing, sweat running down his face. The cage groaned, the chains rattling violently. Lyra's eyes shone brighter, her voice rising into a desperate cry. Break it now." The Guardian lifted its blade arm, shadow falling across. Ethan like the wing of death. He pulled the trigger one last time. The lock shattered. The cage door swung open. And everything went silent. The lock shattered, sparks dancing in the air like falling stars. The heavy cage door swung open with a long, painful creak. For a moment, the world went silent. Ethan stood frozen, blaster raised, heart pounding like a drum in his chest. Lyra stared at the open door, her glowing eyes wide with both hope and fear. Chains still bound her arms and legs, glowing faintly with red symbols. She was free from the cage, but not from her prison. Then the silence broke. The Guardian roared, a sound like grinding metal and thunder. Its blade arm swung down, cutting through the floor where Ethan had been standing just seconds before. Sparks exploded. The ground trembled. Ethan rolled aside, breathing hard, the smell of burning metal filling his mask. He aimed his blaster and fired. The bolt struck the Guardian's chest butt instead of damage. The red symbols across its body glowed brighter, feeding on the energy. It was not weakened, it was stronger. Lyra's voice cut through the chaos. "Do not shoot it. The more you fire, the stronger it becomes." Ethan gritted his teeth, lowering the weapon. His only tool was useless. The Guardian's burning eyes turned toward him. Hunger and fury mixed in that hollow stare. Boom, 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 boom. Each step shook the floor, the sound echoing through the vast chamber. Ethan glanced back at Lyra. She struggled against her chains, her pale skin shining faintly, her body trembling with exhaustion. She was weak, but there was something inside her, a hidden strength he could feel, even from across the room. "Free me," she cried, pulling at the glowing cuffs. "If you leave me like this, we will both die." Ethan's mind raced. Every part of him screamed to run, to escape before the Guardian tore him apart. His ship wasn't far. He could sprint back through the corridors, seal the door, and fly away. Survival was possible if he left her behind. But if he stayed, if he chose to help, he might never see the stars again. The Guardian raised its blade high, aiming for him once more. Ethan's decision came in a rush, born not from logic, but from instinct, from the deepest part of what it meant to be human. He ran not away, but toward Lyra. The Guardian's blade slammed down, missing him by inches. The ground cracked, pieces of metal flying into the air. Ethan dove forward, sliding across the floor until he reached the girl. Her eyes widened with surprise and relief. "Hold still," he shouted. He aimed his blaster not at the Guardian, but at the glowing cuffs around her wrists. The first shot exploded against the red symbol, shattering it in a burst of light. The chain fell, clattering against the floor. Lyra gasped, the freed arm glowing faintly with silver energy. Ethan fired again. Breaking the second cuff, another chain fell away. But the Guardian was not patient. With a roar, it lunged its blade, slicing through the air toward Ethan's back. "Ethan!" Lyra screamed. He spun at the last second, raising his blaster in desperation. He knew it would only make the creature stronger, but it was all he had. Before he could fire, Lyra moved. With her freed arm, she raised her hand. A burst of silver energy shot from her palm, striking the Guardian in the chest. The red symbols flickered. Its creature staggered back, its roar turning into a distorted screech. Ethan stared in shock. "You can fight them. Not while I am." "Chained," she said through gritted teeth. "Break them all." Ethan turned quickly, blasting the remaining cuffs. Each shot broke another chain, the red glow fading into smoke. Lyra's body shook with the release of power. Her eyes blazed brighter, her silver skin glowing like moonlight. The last chain snapped. For the first time in centuries, Lyra was free. The Guardian roared again and charged, but this time, Lyra did not cower. She stepped forward, lifting both hands. Silver energy surged around her, crackling like lightning. With a cry, she unleashed a wave of force. The blast struck the Guardian with such power that its steel body shattered, pieces flying in every direction. The burning eyes flickered and went dark. Silence returned, broken only by the sound of chains clattering to the floor. Ethan lowered his blaster, breathing hard, sweat running down his face. His eyes stayed locked on Lyra. She stood tall now, her hair glowing faintly, her eyes burning with a strength that was almost terrifying. "You saved us," he said softly. Lyra turned to him, her expression unreadable. "No, Ethan, you saved me. And now, you have tied your fate to mine." Her words sent a chill down his spine. He wanted to believe he had done the right thing, that freeing her was an act of mercy. But her warning echoed in his mind. "Freeing me will not end this. It will begin it." The ground rumbled again, faint but steady. Ethan frowned. "What is that?" Lyra's eyes darkened. "The Guardians were only the first. The others will come now. They will not stop until I am caged Igor, until I am dead." Ethan's jaw tightened. He had made his choice. He could not undo it. And he realized something else: the universe would never let him return to his old life. He looked at her, determination hardening in his voice. "Then we fight. Together." Lyra's gaze softened, a hint of gratitude hidden in her sorrow. "Together," she whispered. But outside the chamber, deep in the shadows of the outpost, more footsteps echoed. Boom, 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 boom. And this time, there were many. The silence after the Guardian's fall did not last long. The chamber shook again, but this time, the sound was not from one monster. It was many boom, boom, boom. Ethan's head snapped toward the corridor. The heavy rhythm of metal feet grew louder, echoing from every direction. Dust rained down from the ceiling, lights flickered weakly, and the air itself seemed to tremble. Lyra's silver eyes narrowed. They are coming. More than one. Too many for us to fight here. Ethan clenched his jaw. Then we run. He reached out his hand. Lyra hesitated for only a moment, then grabbed it. Her touch was cold, but strong despite her weakness. Together, they sprinted out of the chamber. The corridors stretched like a maze, endless and broken. Strange alien symbols glowed faintly on the walls, pulsing as if alive. The sound of the guardians grew louder, closer, left. Lyra cried. Ethan followed her lead, trusting her knowledge of the outpost. His boots pounded against the metal floor as they weaved through shattered hallways. Behind them, shadows moved, and the roar of guardians echoed like thunder. He risked. A glance back, shapes emerged from the dark. 3, no, 5 of them. Their eyes burned red, their bodies towering and armored. Blades and claws scraped against the walls as they advanced. Sparks showered as their weapons cut through pipes and wires. They're faster than us, Ethan shouted. Not if we take the hidden way, Lyra replied, her breath quick but steady. Follow me. They turned sharply into a narrow passage. The walls were cracked, wires hanging down like vines. The air was colder here, the smell of rust stronger. But the guardians followed, their heavy steps shaking the corridor. Ethan's chest tightened. He could hear them gaining ground. Where does this lead? To the lower levels, Lyra answered. There is a service tunnel. If we reach it, we can escape to the surface. Ethan nodded, forcing his legs to move faster. The corridor opened into a vast chamber filled with broken machinery. Massive gears, long dead, hung from the ceiling. Chains dangled like vines. The floor was littered with debris, sharp and dangerous. Careful! Ethan shouted as they leaped over a broken beam. The guardians stormed in behind them, their glowing eyes cutting through the dark. One raised its blade arm and hurled it forward like a spear. The weapon slammed into the ground, just inches from Ethan's feet, sparks exploding. He stumbled, but Lyra pulled him forward. Do not stop, she cried. They dashed across the chamber, weaving between machines and wreckage. But the guardians were relentless, smashing through obstacles. There. Metallic roars shaking the walls. One leaped forward, landing with a crash that sent dust flying. Its claws swiped at Ethan, nearly cutting him in half. At the last second, Lyra raised her hand. A burst of silver energy shot out, striking the guardian in the face. It staggered, but did not fall. They are stronger in groups. Lyra shouted, her voice strained. I cannot hold them back for long. Ethan pulled her forward, heart racing. They reached another corridor, narrower than before. The walls pressing close, but the guardians still followed. Ethan's mind raced. Running forever was not possible. They needed a plan. Can you collapse the passage? He asked. Lyra shook. Her head, not without rest. My strength is returning, but the chains weakened me. Ethan cursed under his breath. The sound of metal feet grew closer. The guardian shadows stretching down the corridor. Then he saw a old control panel on the wall. Half broken, wires sparking faintly. An idea struck him. Keep moving. He told Lyra, What are you doing? She demanded. Buying us time. He skidded to the panel, tearing off the cover. Sparks burned his hands, but he ignored the pain. The panel connected to the emergency blast doors. If he could reroute the power, guardians. Rounded the corner, eyes blazing. Ethan slammed his fist against the control. the doors groaned. "Come on, come on." He shouted. The first guardian lunged. Blade raised, the blast doors slammed shut. The impact shook the corridor as the guardian crashed into the sealed wall. Its roar muffled behind the thick metal. The others slammed against it, their claws screeching. The corridor went still, except for the sound of Ethan's ragged breathing. He staggered back, his hands burned, his chest tight. Lyra stepped to his side, her eyes wide. "You trapped them?" "Not for long," Ethan panted. "That door won't hold." She nodded slowly. "Then we keep moving. The service tunnel is close." Together, they ran again, their footsteps echoing down the narrow hall. Behind them, the pounding on the blast doors grew louder. Cracks began to spread across the metal. Boom, boom, boom. Ethan forced himself not to look back. Finally, they reached a hatch at the end of the corridor. Lyra pressed her hand against it, and the alien symbols lit up. With a hiss, the hatch slid open, revealing a dark tunnel sloping upward. "This way," she said. They climbed quickly, the tunnel tight and steep. Ethan's arms ached, his breath heavy, but he kept moving. Above them, faint light glowed. Freedom was close. But then the sound came. Again, boom, boom, boom. The guardians had broken through. Ethan looked up at the faint light, then back at the shadows rising from below. His heart thundered. Lyra met his gaze. "We cannot outrun them forever. You must be ready for what comes next." Ethan tightened his grip on the blaster. "I made my choice. No turning back now." The two climbed faster, the sound of pursuit growing louder with every second. And at the end of the tunnel, the light grew brighter. But so did the danger waiting beyond. The tunnel stretched upward, the faint glow of daylight seeping in through cracks ahead. Ethan's arms burned as he pulled himself up the steep passage. Every breath tasted of rust and dust. Behind them, the metallic echoes of the guardians grew louder, climbing after them like predators that never tired. Lyra climbed beside him, her silver skin shimmering faintly in the dim light. Though she looked fragile, her movements were steady, almost graceful. The chains were gone, but the marks of the cuffs still burned red around her wrists. At last, they reached the end of the tunnel. Ethan shoved the hatch with all his strength. With a groan, the heavy door opened. A rush of cold air swept over them as they emerged into the open. The outpost's surface stretched around them. Barren wasteland of cracked metal platforms, broken towers, and alien ruins. Above, the sky was dark with clouds, streaks of lightning flashing silently across the horizon. For a moment, Ethan breathed deeply, relieved to escape the suffocating halls below. But the peace did not last. Boom. Boom, boom. The guardians were still coming. Lyra looked around quickly, her eyes glowing brighter. "We cannot stay on the surface. They will track us here easily." "Then where do we go?" Ethan asked, scanning the horizon. His ship was nearby, hidden in the shadows of a broken hangar. But if they ran there directly, the guardians would follow and tear it apart before he could launch. Lyra pointed toward a crumbling spire in the distance. "There, that chamber still holds power. We may have time to speak before they find us again." Ethan hesitated. "Speak. We don't need to talk. We need to run." Her eyes locked on his, sharp and unyielding. "If you do not understand who I am, you will not survive what comes. You chose to free me. Now you must hear the truth." The guardians' roars echoed behind them, closer now. Ethan swore under his breath, then nodded. "Fine. Lead the way." They ran across the cracked platform, boots clanging against ancient metal. The wind howled through broken towers, carrying the faint smell of ash. In the distance, the spire loomed, tilting slightly, like a wounded giant refusing to fall. They reached its base, slipping through a narrow gap into the hollow inside. The chamber glowed faintly with alien symbols carved deep into the walls. Strange crystals pulsed with weak light, remnants of some forgotten power. For the first time since freeing her, Lyra stopped. She stood in the middle of the chamber, breathing. Slowly, her eyes reflecting the glow of the walls, Ethan raised his blaster, still on guard. "All right, start talking. Who are you really?" She turned to him, her face calm but filled with sorrow. "I told you before. My name is Lyra. I am the last of my kind. My people were once the keepers of knowledge older than this galaxy. We built wonders, healed worlds, and walked among the stars as protectors." Her voice softened, almost breaking. "But with knowledge comes fear. Others saw us not as guardians, but as weapons. They came with armies. They burned our skies. They caged me, the last heir of my people's power." Ethan's grip on the blaster tightened. He remembered the red symbols on her chains, the way the guardians seemed bound to her. "So they locked you away because you're dangerous." Lyra stepped closer, her silver skin glowing faintly. "Not dangerous. Different. My power is not meant to destroy, it is meant to heal, to create, to protect. But in the hands of the wrong ones, it can become a weapon that could wipe out entire worlds. That is why they fear me." Ethan frowned, struggling to believe. "Then, why call me? Why risk everything by asking for help?" Her eyes softened. "Because hope is stronger than fear. For centuries, I cried out. Many heard, but none answered. Until you. You are human, and humans are strange. Your kind fights not only to live, but to protect, even when the odds are hopeless. That is why I chose you." Ethan's chest tightened at her words. He had always thought of himself as just another traveler, wandering the stars. But now he felt the weight of her gaze, of the choice he had made. Before he could respond, the ground shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling as the sound of claws against metal echoed through the spire. Boom, boom, boom. "They found us," Ethan said, raising his blaster. Lyra closed her eyes briefly. It was only a matter of time. But before they arrive, you must know one more truth. Her eyes opened again, glowing brighter now. By freeing me, you have bound yourself to my fate. The Guardians will never stop hunting me. And now, they will never stop hunting you. Ethan's breath caught. The truth struck harder than any weapon. He had not only saved her, he had cursed himself. Lyra stepped closer, her voice soft. "You can still leave me, Ethan. Run to your ship. Escape. If they take me again, they may not follow you." He stared at her, his heart pounding. The offer was real. He could turn back, abandon her, and maybe live. But deep inside, he knew the truth. He could never walk away now. His voice was steady. "No. I made my choice back in that chamber. If they're hunting you, they'll have to go through me too." For a moment, silence filled the spire. Then Lyra smiled faintly. The first true smile he had seen on her face. "Then you are braver than most I have ever known," she whispered. The walls shook violently. The Guardians roared outside, their claws tearing through the spire's broken walls. Ethan raised his blaster, his voice hard. "Then let's survive this together." The chamber filled with red light as the first Guardian broke through, its burning eyes fixed on them. Lyra's silver glow brightened, her hands sparking with power. The truth was out. There was no turning back. The first Guardian tore through. The wall, red eyes burning like fire. Its blade arms glowed, dripping sparks as it stepped into the chamber. Dust and broken metal rained from the ceiling. Behind it, more shadows moved. At least 3 others were climbing the spire, their roars echoing through the hollow walls. Ethan tightened his grip on the blaster. His pulse hammered in his ears, but he forced himself to stand firm. He had survived this long, and he wasn't about to fall now. Beside him, Lyra stood tall, her silver glow spreading across the chamber like moonlight cutting through storm clouds. The Guardian lunged. Its blade came down in a deadly arc. Ethan dove aside, rolling across the floor. The blade smashed into the ground where he had stood, splitting the metal with a deafening crash. Sparks flew, the chamber shaking under the impact. Lyra raised her hands. Silver energy surged outward, forming a barrier that crackled like lightning. The Guardian slammed against it, its claws screeching against the glowing shield. The chamber, filled with the smell of burning metal. Ethan scrambled to his feet. "How long can you hold that?" Lyra's voice was strained but steady. "Not long. You must strike now." Ethan aimed at the creature's legs. He remembered her warning. Shooting their cores only made them stronger, but their limbs. Maybe he could slow them down. He fired. The blaster bolts struck the Guardian's knee joint. Sparks erupted, the metal buckling under the force. Its Guardian roared, staggering as one leg gave way. Lyra dropped her shield and thrust her hand forward. Silver light shot out, slamming into the creature's chest. This time, instead of feeding its power, the energy tore through it, ripping apart the glowing symbols. The Guardian screamed, its body splitting in half before collapsing in a heap of broken steel. Ethan blinked, stunned. You destroyed it." Lyra's eyes burned brighter. "Together, yes. Alone, no." But there was no time to celebrate. The second Guardian burst through the wall, followed by a third. Their red eyes locked onto Ethan and Lyra. The chamber shook as they advanced, each step pounding like thunder. Ethan raised his blaster again. 2 of them. "This just keeps getting better." Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch cold but steady. "Trust me. Fight with me. Do not fear." He met her gaze, then nodded. Fear was there, yes, but so was resolve. The first of the new Guardians charged, blade arms swinging wildly. Ethan ducked, firing rapid shots at its joints. Sparks flew, slowing its movement. Lyra moved gracefully, weaving between its strikes. With a wave of her hand, she unleashed a burst of silver light that blinded the creature, forcing it back. The second Guardian roared, leaping high into the air. Its massive form crashed down, sending shockwaves across the chamber. Ethan was thrown to the floor, his blaster skidding away. "Ethan," Lyra cried. The Guardian loomed over him, its blade raised to strike. Ethan reached desperately for the weapon, but it was too far. His chest tightened. This was it? Then Lyra's glow flared brighter than ever. She stepped between him and the Guardian, her hands glowing like twin stars. With a cry, she unleashed a torrent of energy that slammed into the monster's chest. The force blasted it across the chamber, smashing it into the wall with a thunderous crash. The wall cracked, chunks of stone and metal falling. Ethan gasped, staring at her in awe. "You saved me." Lyra turned, her expression fierce. "As you saved me, now get up. We are not finished." Ethan scrambled to his feet, grabbing the blaster. The first Guardian had recovered and swung its blade toward him. This time, Ethan didn't dodge. He stepped forward, sliding beneath the swing, and fired directly into its ankle joint. The leg buckled, the massive body collapsing sideways. Lyra followed instantly, thrusting her palm against its chest. Silver energy surged, ripping the red symbols apart. The creature convulsed, then fell silent, 2 down. But the third Guardian was rising, its burning eyes brighter than ever. The chamber shook as it pulled free from the rubble, roaring with rage. Ethan wiped the sweat from his forehead. "Please tell me that was the last one?" Lyra shook her head grimly. "No, more will come. Always more. The Guardian charged faster than before. Ethan fired again and again, bolts striking its legs and shoulders. Each shot slowed it, but not enough. At the last second, Lyra grabbed Ethan's hand. Their palms touched, her silver glow spreading into him. For a moment, Ethan felt his body surge with warmth and strength, as if her power flowed into his veins. "What are you?" he began. "Trust me," she said firmly. Together, they raised their hands. Silver light mixed with the energy of his blaster, forming a beam brighter than anything Ethan had ever seen. They fired as one. The beam struck the Guardian square in the chest. The red symbols flared, then shattered like glass. The monster staggered back, screaming, before collapsing into a pile of molten steel. Silence returned once again. Ethan stood, breathless, his hand still in hers. His body tingled with the aftershock of power. He stared at her, eyes wide. We did that?" Lyra nodded, her expression unreadable. "Yes, you and I are bound now. My power flows through you. Together, we can do what neither of us could." Alone, Ethan's chest rose and fell quickly. He felt the weight of her words. Bound. Together, it was no longer just her fight. It was theirs. Before he could respond, the ground trembled violently. Outside the spire, a low hum filled the air. Ethan ran to the edge of the broken wall and looked out. His heart froze in the sky above. Alien ships were descending sleek, black vessels glowing with the same red symbols as the Guardians. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. Lyra stepped beside him, her voice soft but heavy. "They know I am free. They are coming for me." For us, Ethan's grip tightened on the blaster. The battle in the spire was only the beginning. The sky above the ruined spire burned with red light. Dozens of alien ships descended through the clouds, their sharp black frames glowing with the same cursed symbols that had marked Lyra's chains. The air trembled with their engines. A low hum that seemed to crawl into the bones. Ethan stood at the edge of the shattered wall, his blaster tight in his grip. His eyes widened as the ships spread across the horizon, blotting out the stars. He had seen war fleets before, pirates, raiders, even human battleships, but nothing like this. This was not an army. This was a storm, endless and unstoppable. Beside him, Lyra watched silently. Her silver glow flickered faintly, her face calm but sorrowful. "They have come," she whispered. "The hunters of my kind. The keepers of the chains. They will not leave until I am in their grasp again." Ethan swallowed hard, forcing down the fear building inside him. "And now they know I helped you." Lyra turned to him, her glowing eyes soft. "Yes, from this moment, you are no longer just a traveler. You are marked. They will hunt you until the end of your days." For a brief moment, silence stretched between them. The choice weighed heavy, but Ethan knew he had already made it back in the cage. There was no turning back now. The ships drew closer, their weapons glowing faintly. The ruins shook as smaller vessels detached, soaring downward like black arrows. They slammed into the ground outside the spire, hatches opening to release new machines' guardians, dozens of them, their red eyes burning as they marched forward. Ethan's chest tightened. He aimed his blaster, though it felt useless against so many. "We can't fight all of that," he muttered. Lyra placed a hand on his arm. Her touch was cold but steady. "We cannot stay here, but we can survive. There is a way out if you trust me." He glanced at her, searching her eyes. "You've been right so far. Lead the way." Lyra stepped into the center of the chamber. She lifted her arms, her silver glow brightening until it filled the spire like moonlight. Symbols on the walls, long dead, flickered to life. The floor Vibrated, cracks glowing with ancient energy. Ethan shielded his eyes from the light. "What are you doing?" "I am calling the last gift of my people," she said, her voice echoing strangely. A hidden path, one they could not erase. The ground trembled. From the center of the chamber, a circular platform rose, glowing with silver runes. Energy surged upward like a pillar of light. Ethan stared in awe. A transport. Lyra nodded, her voice firm. "It will carry us far from here. But once we step onto it, there is no return. The path will lead to a place even I do not fully know. A sanctuary or a trap. We must take the chance." The guardians roared outside, their heavy steps shaking. The ground as they drew closer. The first of them appeared at the broken wall, red eyes fixed on Ethan and Lyra. Ethan tightened his grip on the blaster. He looked at the transport, then at Lyra. "No choice, huh?" Her faint smile returned. "Choice is what makes you human, but sometimes the right path is the dangerous one." Ethan laughed under his breath, shaking his head. "Funny, my father used to say the same thing." The guardians charged. Lyra reached for Ethan's hand. "Now, Ethan." Together. Without hesitation, he grabbed her hand and stepped onto the glowing platform. The symbols flared brighter, silver energy surrounding them. The roar of the guardians filled the chamber as they stormed inside. Blades raised, and then the light consumed everything. The world dissolved in a flash of silver. Ethan felt his body pulled through endless stars, his mind spinning. He held on to Lyra's hand tightly, the only anchor in the storm of light. Then, silence. When the light faded, they stood on solid ground again, but not on the spire. Ethan blinked, looking around. They were in a vast chamber, far larger than anything he had seen before. Towers of crystal rose into the air, glowing faintly. Strange machines hummed quietly, alive with forgotten power. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes wide with wonder. This is not the outpost. This is older, much older." Ethan frowned. "Where are we?" She turned to him slowly, her voice low. "We are standing in the heart of my people's sanctuary. The place they built before the war. The place even I was never meant to see." The air shimmered with energy. Ethan felt the hair on his arms rise, his skin tingling with the charge. Something about this place was alive, watching them. Before he could speak, a deep hum filled the chamber. Symbols lit up across the floor, forming a massive circle of light. In the center, a structure rose from the ground, a throne of crystal, ancient and powerful. Lyra's eyes widened. "No, it cannot be." Ethan stepped closer, wary. "What is it?" Her voice trembled for the first time. "Eternal. The one place where the power of my kind can be awakened fully. If I sit there, my strength will return. But so will the war. Every enemy in the stars will come for us." Ethan's chest tightened. "So it's another choice." Lyra nodded slowly, her silver glow flickering. "Yes, if I take the throne, I may save worlds, or destroy them. If I refuse, the hunters will keep coming until they break us. Either way, the future has changed because of you, Ethan." The chamber shook faintly, as if the universe itself waited for his answer. Ethan stared at the throne, then at Lyra. His voice was steady, firm. "Then we make the choice together." Lyra's eyes softened, sorrow and hope mixed within them. She whispered, "Then, human, our story has only begun." The chamber glowed brighter, the sound of distant engines echoing from the stars above. The fleet was coming. The war was no longer a shadow. It was here, and humanity's fate was now tied to hers.